situation is whenever I do achieve a goal, I set a new one. So I don't plan on stop dreaming or setting goals until I'm dead, to be honest with you, because to me, the beauty is in the pursuit of it. It's not necessarily reaching it. You know, this whole, even the movie Pursuit of Happiness, you know, they say, well, why do, you know, they call it the pursuit of happiness, because truly the excitement is in the pursuit of it. So even as a football player, like, I enjoyed working out. I enjoyed everything that went into, like, preparing for a game, preparing for a season. It was a pursuit of perfection. You're never going to be perfect, and you're never going to reach all your goals. I wanted to be a professional NFL football player for most of my life. You know, I made it into an NFL camp, but I didn't make it. So that's one of my goals in life. I just have to accept the fact that I didn't make it, but I didn't allow it to prevent me from continuing to set new goals and continue to pursue other things. And really, as a writer, my love for writing came out of not making it as a football player, because really I was just going through a difficult part in my life where I really started journaling, just because it was therapy for me to deal with the fact that football was gone, and it was like a rug had been pulled out from under me. So I started journaling, and then I started working at a homeless shelter for teenagers. And as I was working there and I was trying to reach some of these young people who had been through all these traumatic, you know, situations, I started thinking, what could I do to try to reach them? And as I was going through this kind of self-reflection process of myself, doing journaling and working with them at the same time, I had an idea like, oh, this would be cool as a book. So I started working on it then. I didn't know it would take me 6 years to actually finish the project, so I was no longer there by the time I finally finished it, but they have received copies. I'm talking about growing up in poverty, and I'm speaking from an African-American perspective because that was my experience. But by no means do I feel like this book is specific to just black people or just people growing up in poverty. I think it's really trying to say you need to define yourself for yourself regardless to whatever environment you may be growing up in. You got to understand that you're being influenced by your environment, whether it be your friends, your family environment, your neighborhood environment, media, you know, everything. You don't believe anything just because. You're not on an island by yourself, okay? So everything you see every day, conversation you have with people is all helping to shape your perspective. So I believe that your environment kind of dictates your beliefs, and then your beliefs result in a certain action. So it's just for everybody to be cognizant of the fact that that environment will influence your beliefs, and those beliefs can influence a certain action. Now, growing up in a toxic environment like Rob is to some degree can create some false beliefs and create some destructive actions. So that's why I'm speaking more so from that standpoint, but I don't think that it's just specific to people growing up in that environment. Okay. The best thing, the thing, I mean, I came out the same, you know, years Dwayne Wade. You know, he went to Richards, so everybody knows who Dwayne Wade is. And again, coming out of high school, I'd say Dwayne and I had the same, as far as like ability and same. We were recruited highly, both kind of the same. I had 25 scholarship offers, that type of thing, and I thought that was my road, my path. I didn't see football as a means to an end, but that's ultimately what it became. But I love my story, and it took me to look back on it in hindsight to enjoy it. But I look at it now because you have so many stories of basketball players, football players, whatever the case may be, when it's rags to riches type of story, coming from nothing and now playing sports. But you don't have a lot of, like, from the art standpoint, like people in the hood saying, or people growing up, you know, in the African community saying, I could be a writer, or I can be this. So I like the idea that I'm not an athlete. Well, you know, I'm a writer now. I was an athlete, and I used that to get to college and get a free education from Northwestern University. But then I was able to use that and then become an author. So I love the fact that even though I call me as a writer a dream deferred. You know, the whole, you know, Langston Hughes poem is like, what happens to a dream deferred? Well, football was my dream deferred, and writing was like me daring to dream again. So I love it just in the sense of the fact it teaches people to don't quit when you put your all into one thing. You don't quit, and then also being able to learn to dream again even if something happens.
From your perspective, what was a tougher obstacle to overcome? The perceived minority or the poverty? Which one of those two was a tougher hurdle for you, you think? Or do you think it's a tougher hurdle out there?
I would say the poverty, just because it's so expensive, you know? I mean, when you say poverty, it's a lot involved in it. I mean, it's a conundrum. There's 1,000 problems wrapped up in one. And I think that's what when people try to oversimplify the problem and say, oh, it just means you need to work harder, or you just need to be, they don't understand just how many challenges you are facing. When you're a young kid growing up in that, you don't really have the skill set, especially if it hasn't been taught to you. And maybe your parents don't have the skill set, you know, so how can they teach it to you? So you don't have that skill set to prepare yourself to deal with it. The thing for me is this, you know, I say all the time, you are born with some innate characteristics in you as a person, meaning this is who you are. So the same two kids can be raised in the same single parent home by the same mother, and one become a drug dealer, the other one become a doctor. You know, and that's just the choice of the matter based on the person being exposed to this environment. We all, innately different. So one person's going to see that environment and they're going to be influenced by it positively. Say, you know, there must be more to life than this, and want to go do more. Than the other person's going to be influenced negatively, and they're going to say, you know what, this is what life is about. This is what you have to do. You got to do everything you can and survive and those type of things. And you see that all the time with siblings growing up in these type of environments. So that's the difficult part of it too, is that, you know, innately people are different. So one person can grow up in that environment and succeed, and they'll say, oh yeah, here's the guy, he did it, why can't everybody else do it? Well, me personally, I was innately different. I looked outside every day and I said there had to be more to life than this. I can't say the same thing for my brother, but you know, for me, that's what it was. I just knew I wanted more.